I'm not seeing a thumbs up if you can hear me. Let's do that. Yes, okay, we have the audio problems fixed. Good morning. This is Spokane City Council. I'm Council President Pro Tem Candace Mumm, and we are having our study session today. Welcome, everyone. And Karen says the audio still needs to be higher, so we'll keep working on it, Karen. Thank you. Today we have 4 items on our agenda, and our first item is Wistox Way celebration, and Councilmember Stratton, give us an update.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me and it's loud enough? Okay, perfect. I'm not going to take 15 minutes to do this, and Alex is available too to help with questions. Before I start this, I want to let council and staff know that were it not for Alex, Lisa, and Mark Carlos, we would not be as far in this process as we are. This has been fast and furious, and these 3 individuals have just been wonderful helping to plan this and connect with people, and I am forever grateful. I think it's going to be a good celebration. We have been meeting with members of the Spokane Tribe and the Urban Indians for the last several weeks to plan a celebration of the name change, Wistox Way, out at Spokane Falls Community College. The plan at this point is the event will be on August 20th from 2 to 4 p.m. at Spokane Falls Community College. We will have a stage set up with the podium for some speakers and some recognition, and we will have hopefully some treats and just cool water for people to drink after the ceremony. The big purpose of this was, number one, to celebrate that we've changed the name to Wistox Way, but they want to, the Spokane Tribe wanted to use this opportunity via a celebration to honor Native American warrior women in the area. And what's fascinating to me, when we started this process, we reached out to the tribes, to the urban Indians, to the Spokane Tribe, and said, give us the names of warrior women in your tribe or in your social circles or your business circles that you think need to be honored. And we were thinking at first 25 to 30 names. Right now we're at 80, which tells you the number of Native women in this community and on reservations that are making a difference. And that was, while it was a little scary thinking of how do we recognize 80 strong women, we're working through that. But that was just a joy to have that number and to look at the names and people that we've worked with in this community that we want to celebrate. So that's going to be the purpose of the event. We will be honoring those women. We're working with Lisa Gardner to have on social media maybe their names just listed in a rolling list, thanking and celebrating warrior women and celebrating Wistox. We will be, the Native Project is looking at scarves that would have a design in them similar to the Wistox Way painting. If any of you have seen that, it's a beautiful painting. And so they're working on that for us to give out to these warrior women. We will be, at the ceremony, we will be doing the land acknowledgement, and we're hoping to have somebody that can do that, can read that acknowledgement in English and in Salish, which I think would be amazing if we can get that done. So we're working on that. We have Margot with the Spokane Tribe is working on a blessing and singers that will sing some songs for us. And what am I missing? Oh, and the best thing is that we finalized yesterday. If you've been out to the Spokane Falls Community College, to the fort, the lodge on Wistox Way, across the street from the college, apparently there's a big picture of George Wright in the lodge, just historical. So at this event, they will be presenting the community colleges and the president of Spokane Falls Community College with the Wistock's Way painting that will take the place of the George Wright painting in the lodge at Spokane Falls Community College. So that will be something I think that will be memorable for everybody. We're working on getting invitations out. We should get those out in the next few days. And everybody is invited to this celebration. I do want you to know that my husband and I picked up the Fort George Wright Drive signs. I had no idea how big these were. They're huge. Picked them up, and those were delivered to a Native American artist from the Spokane tribe. Hopefully in the future we'll see some art. They're using that for some art projects. So hopefully we'll see in the future what they were able to do with those signs and to teach a little bit of history. So we're looking forward to it. I'm going to turn it over to Alex, see if he wants to add anything that I forgot. He's really tired of me right now, I'm sure, but he's done a great job. Alex.
Karen, I think you covered it all. But yeah, it's a celebration to honor,
Henley,
women that go into
who's
battle
the speaker for the
with
second
thoughts, and
item,
then
do you know?
also just women that are just contributing so much to our community. And I think just working with the Spokane tribe and then also the urban natives is it's awesome to hear that they're feeling like we're listening to what they're asking for, or like they're being seen, which I think it's also another good reason to kind of continue celebrating and then also participate in the event.
And depending on how they feel about this event, there is discussion of doing it some kind of a celebration yearly to honor Native women in the community and on tribal reservations. There's so many of them doing so much good work, and we just don't know about them. So that's my report. Any questions? Perfect. Hopefully we'll see you August 20th. You will get an invitation, I promise, and we might have cupcakes or cake to lure you to the celebration. Thanks.
Thanks. Glad this was able to come together. Now we hear from, I believe, Tanya Wallace to talk about the Facilities Management Department overview and future operations.
Well, thank you, council members. This is something that's been in the works since our new director has come on board, Jeff Teal. So I'm going to let him share with you his observations since coming to the city in the middle of April, and then what that vision looks like to really build a true facilities department. So, Jeff?
Sure. Good morning, council members. I've been here for a little over 3 months. Just to kind of give some background, I've worked in facilities since I've been 19 years old, so I really don't know any different. Coming to the city has been really different. With that being said, we support approximately 2 million square feet of building space. Staffing levels is I have 1 maintenance foreperson, 1 HVAC tech, 1 electrician, and 1 generalist maintenance person for 2 million square feet. As for custodians, I have 1 custodian 2, which kind of acts like a supervisor. And I have a total of 9 custodians, 5 open positions. We just tested for those, so we should get those ones filled pretty soon. Pretty slim numbers to support all the city buildings. We are not budgeted towards doing preventive maintenance. We will get there and get on some preventive maintenance plans. But the way that the funding is set up is each department head has to request what they want for their buildings. I'm accustomed to a facilities department holds the dollars and puts a preventative maintenance plan together so we can actually maintain these buildings. My short time I've been here, we've had a lot of deferred maintenance, a lot of I guess you could say is different priorities for different directors, for different department heads. They might have a leaky roof in their building, but they would rather have a new piece of equipment, et cetera. And I'm just making an example up. I'm not saying that happened. So with that being said, we are kind of at the mercy at each department head to start doing our maintenance that we want to do. The future, how I see this kind of move this forward is we do not have a custodial manager or foreperson, somebody that can really dive into the custodial side and start getting cost savings from doing bulk ordering and being more consistent with the supplies and chemicals that are being used, setting up tasking for the custodians and what they need to do each day, how to cover if we are a shortage on custodial. And obviously we're in, COVID time still, and it's a area of concern that needs to be addressed. And with that position, we can also get more of a centralized custodial operations. I've been here for 3 months. There's 2 custodians I still haven't met. They work in different buildings that I haven't even been to yet, and they report to the department head. And now it's been switched to report to the facilities department. We do not have a computerized maintenance management system, which allows us to put together a plan for preventive maintenance. It also captures where our expenses are, what buildings need to have more attention versus other buildings. It's a tool that I've never worked without one. And so I'm kind of working in the dark here, and I'd like to start putting together plans. So with that plan, it's kind of coming to the funding model of a cost per square foot. If we have a cost per square foot across the city, that allows us to start putting together plans of building improvement plans, which is like roofing, windows, carpeting, paint schedule, that sort of thing. And it also allows us to put together a preventive maintenance plan. So we can actually make sure we are covering all of the mechanical systems of each building to extend the life of that piece of equipment. We do not have a full-time security officer that works for the city. We have all contract security. We're living in a different time right now. And so all of our officers that we have are not commissioned officers. So that means that they basically can make a phone call. If there's a problem in City Hall, they cannot touch the person. They cannot be physical with a person. So that all they can do is make a phone call for our police to respond. I'm thinking, and we also have a security contract, which I think there's dollars there that's low-hanging fruit if we had somebody that really looked at the security needs for the city and find out what those needs really are. Intermodal is a big challenge because it's open 24/7. So that's one thing that we're concentrating on is what are the security needs there. If we had an FTE security position, that person could dive into that. Not only that, be looking at, like, for example, our keys that we have here for the city. My short observation here is that we have a key badge with our picture on it and where we work. If any of us were to lose that key badge, we just gave access to anybody that picked that up. So there's some of those policies that we need to dress up and look at. Furthermore, we do not have a carpenter for the city. So we do a lot of contracting out work, in which I think, I know we could save those dollars by having an internal carpenter to do roof repair, painting, window replacement, etc. Not only that, we could also have better customer service, a quicker return on the issue that needs to be addressed. So I think with a security position, we could reduce our contract. Our custodial, we still have some contracts in place. That's another reduction that we can do. And our HVAC contracts, I think in the future, we really need to get a HVAC survey done. For an example, at City Hall, we do not have any controls that are web-based. So and I'm not saying this would happen, but if something were to be placed in the lobby of City Hall that is dangerous, so to speak, airborne, we have no way of shutting down our HVAC systems unless we come on site to shut down those HVAC systems. Also, we have no way of monitoring our controls remote to make sure that the building is operating as designed. So it's a really antiquated system that we need to look at trying to update, and that's just starting with City Hall. We need to expand that to obviously our other city-owned buildings. I wanted to be on your study group so you can kind of get a picture where I'm coming from, where we're at, where we're heading, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Yes, ma'am.
Thanks for this. It was really informative. Now I'm scared to be in City Hall, but that's okay. Try not to breathe. I am wondering if you all have have you been to the public safety building where police are and where our public defenders and prosecutors are? It's quite the mess. And I'm wondering if there's any conversation around a public safety building for the city, a standalone that is not connected with the county, because the county wants the space back and the defenders are being squeezed out. Police are dealing with a leaky roof and mold in the bathroom. So has there been any discussion around that?
Not that I'm aware of. It might have been before my time. Tanya, I don't know if you could allude to that.
Yes, council members, there has been some discussion around that, but that is definitely a larger discussion that we would want to workshop with you. I think what Jeff is looking at right now in just his 3 months' time is that he has, one, no administrative staff, and we do not have a system that is capturing all of our facilities and the state of those facilities. And that's where he is coming to you right now, is just to tell you we really don't have the tools to do that proper assessment of all of our facilities and create those standards. And then we can start having better discussions, more informed discussions about what can we do with our facilities and what are the space needs of the future. And specific to your question, Councilmember Kinnear, where should we be then placing our police officers and creating a public safety headquarters building that meets our building standards? And then we can work on a financial strategy around that. So we're still trying to take some little baby steps and at least get that administration, get that tool in place, then start doing some assessments, getting you informed, and then we're better educated to know how we need to invest our dollars for the future.
So I would ask, just as a follow-up, I would ask that you touch back with Mr. Delaney, because he is in full throttle to find a place. He has a commercial real estate agent working with him. Johnny Perkins is well aware of this. So we might want to loop back with them, because the ball is rolling on their end. So there may be a little disconnect here. And it's a priority for Howard, because right now those public defenders, they're not safe. It's not a safe environment for them. So before something tragic happens, I think we need to amp that up a little bit and make it a priority. And loop back with Howard so he can fill you in.
Councilmember Wilkerson and then Councilmember Stratton.
Thank you, and thank you, Jeff, for that. It's kind of alarming that clarity, so there's no one central place that we have information on all the properties that the city owns and is charged with maintaining. That's one. And then what would be your first step going forward?
Thank you. So yes, you're absolutely correct. There's not one centralized base. There is no maintenance program that's out there. There's not a good building surveys, there's not building surveys of condition surveys of those buildings yet. The number one step for me is to get admin support and bring in a CMMS, a computerized maintenance management system. It sounds great in theory, but it's going to take some time to build that system. It's very critical that we build the system and not and think forward as we're building the system so we don't have to go backwards. Once the system starts getting built, we can start building in our condition surveys, which that allows us to use data and analytics on where our dollars really need to go. We might have one department that says theirs is more important than another department, but the survey will actually tell us what that importance is and where we need to move forward. So that would be my number one first step, is to get those two kind of together, because you can't have one without the other. And then I'm currently working on reclassing a position to a custodial 4 person to look into that. So those are the two things that I'm doing now. I've been working with civil service quite a bit. This is all a big learning opportunity for me coming to the city, because I've worked for the state for 29 years, and it's just different processes that I need to learn. It doesn't move as quick as I'm used to, and trust me, my goal is to make the city a better place.
Councilmember Stratton.
I just wanted to welcome you. I know we met over email regarding baby changing stations, and so you know that that's been an issue with City Council for the last couple of years. I also, when you're ready, regarding what Councilmember Kinnear said, there was a really good study done a few years back. It's older, but it did look at all city buildings, city-owned buildings, and it was a whole big study on where we move public safety when we're ready. So if anybody, Tanya, if you want a copy of that, let me know. I can find it and send it to you, because there was some good information, and it also included storage. That's always been a big thing, is where our storage, we just need more and more space for storage. So if you need it, let me know and I'll send it to you.
That would be great if you could.
Okay.
Also,
I would, to address the baby changing stations, just so you know, it's in progress. We ordered them yesterday. They're on back order, but it shouldn't be a problem at all. I'm trying to catch up on items that have either been dropped or items that have been on hold due to COVID. And somebody coming in new, I kind of like to know the back history on where and how we got to where we got. I don't know if discussions were made, when it came to the ADA conversations. I kind of like to have that back history so I can make the best decision, for the city.
And I can look to see if I have any historical. I try and save a lot of that stuff. So if you need any of that, let me know. Because there was a lot of back and forth between Councilmember Mum, myself, facilities. If you need any of that information, let me know.
I reached out to our engineers. I already got the answers I need. It's in progress. It's not going to be a big deal. I will tell you that the intermodal already has baby changing stations at the intermodal, which is another public facility. So.
Great.
Thank you. I love hearing it's not a big deal. That's the first time I've heard that in 6 years. So that's a good thing to hear. I also wanted to mention we did an efficiency study with McKinstry. I don't know if that's been provided to you on all kinds of things with, temperature and cooling and other things just on, for sustainability. And if you don't have that either, we'll make sure you get it, or someone will, because we spent a lot of money on it, and it was supposed to save the city taxpayers a lot of money to institute it. So,
I will say this: I have not had time to go through all of our archives yet, so I will look for that. But I just know that our systems are annotated too. Yes, sir.
Council President.
Yeah. I hope, on the one hand, we're a little concerned, but on the other hand, we're so relieved you're on the job. So thank you for being here. And I think we put you in touch with McKinstry people, so they probably can get that to you as well. I'm sure they have that. I did want to make one clarification of something that scared us. My understanding is that key cards, to get in the building from outside, even if you have someone else's key card, you'd have to have their social security number too. So the key card itself won't do it. But I get that people can walk in the front door with a lanyard around their name, and the person might not. They might be a stranger. So I just wanted to clarify, if anyone's listening, that you can't get into the building after hours with someone else's key card unless you know their social security number.
just from my past experience, that's a great point. My past experience is that the Community College of Spokane, we changed ours because we did have an issue where somebody did find our card and they knew where we worked and they decided to help themselves to quite a bit of computers. So.
Great. Well, thank you so much for the update. I know you have a lot of work to do, but we support it. So.
Well, I appreciate everybody's time.
You bet. We have 2 more items, but we're going to flip them because we have hope of a special guest to speak to us from the health department about our in-person meeting. So if it's okay with you, Council President Biggs, I'd like to go to the ARP update.
All right. Yes. So your council work group of Councilmember Stratton and Wilkerson and I and staff continue to work on that. I guess one update to give is we are having our first meeting with the administration on next Wednesday. We've been wanting to do that for a while and inviting them for a while, and they needed to get some ducks in order before they could do that. And again, just to be clear, we've set out the full ARP process in writing by council resolution, and the purpose of meeting with the administration is twofold. One, just to handle, things as they come, wild card things that come up so that we have a regular meeting. And I think we're going to, after this meeting, we're going to start meeting on Friday afternoons regularly. But the main purpose of this group is that once City Council gives an initial blessing to an ARP spending project or projects, we will then meet with the administration, share what it is, and then send it back to their people to help just give us feedback on if that's something we want to spend money on, what are some opportunities we might be able to leverage it with something else, or what are some things we hadn't foreseen, what are some other partners. So the group, the administration council work group is not to make decisions about what the priorities are, it's to implement them and figure out what implementation issues are. And so we'll just have a regular rolling group as things come through from council that will do that. I just got a text that there's not confirmation on the Friday date yet, but I'm confident that we will get a date. So I just want to be clear on that because some people have been confused, like, wait a second, I thought council was setting the priorities, and they are. We've set that all out. But again, since the administration has to implement them, we want to early in the process, before we finalize things, get their input on how implementation would work best and any pitfalls that we haven't anticipated because we're not in operation. So looking forward to that. I think, can't remember if I mentioned this, but one of the things that we're recommending strongly in our group is that we will get outside vendor for 2 different functions. Given that we're going to be distributing $80 million, one important thing is compliance with ARP. So a lot of jurisdictions have had challenges where they've, under the CARES Act, where they spent the money, they thought it was in compliance, then they found out it wasn't, and they had to pay the money back. So we are super concerned about that. We don't want to do that. And so rather than burden our already staff who's already working more than full time, we're going to propose that we do an RFP to get a law firm or some other entity like that with expertise, like that is what they do, ARPA compliance, and get a contract so they're on call. So council, anytime we need to, we can say, hey, we're thinking about this idea, that work, and then Tanya and her crew can also do the same. Hey, we had a red flag on this. And rather than them spending all the hours researching it, they can just ask that person. I think it will, in the long run, save us money and staff time. It'll be more effective. There'll be more subject matter experts than we ever would be. And then in the unlikely event that there's a complete botch from them, then we potentially could hold them accountable for that as well. So that's one function. And then kind of similar, again, getting $80 million out the door, most of it will be in contracts. Our procurement staff, it already works more than full time, I'm sure. So we're looking at putting an RFP for a vendor for that. And again, I promise you there are many well-qualified companies that all they are doing right now is selling their services to do RFP processes for ARPA money. So we'll look out for that. And again, we're not displacing Sally Stouffer's authority or oversight or anything like that, but it's just that will be available to do. And instead of Sally managing 2 or 3 more employees to do it, she would just manage a contract with them. So I feel good about that. Further update, we have a draft memo on process that we're going to share with you, but it's not in final yet, just so you know. We're trying to get that ready so that will be transparent, and we'll get your feedback on that. So we're working on that. I'm going to ask someone else in a moment to talk about Thought Exchange, because I don't have expertise on that, but we launched that.
That might be you.
Essentially, we are still gathering ideas from people, and then we haven't quite figured out our process of how we 3 council members pull up things and get them to you. But we do know that part of that is Mackenzie Lloyd, who we were able to hire, and she's going to be the person that writes things up. So the 3 council members will pull up ideas for programs, and Mackenzie will make sure that we have enough information in an accessible format that we then present to you at a study session, so that you can say thumbs up, thumbs down, or bike racket for another time, and then we can go to the administration. So the other thing I just want to mention is, because I know as council members are out there, people are asking you, when can I apply? When can I apply? So, we're working on an application process, but I guess I want to make it the way we've been thinking about it. It's not up to us, but the way we've been thinking about it is right now we're focusing on program ideas. So what would be a small business program proposal? If you want to distribute money to, I'll just say, the neighborhood business associations and their businesses, or you want to distribute money for, I'm just making this up, after school programs. I think the school district's got plenty of money. They're doing that fine. But if you want to do that where other people would then apply to this nonprofit that's distributing money, we're focusing on that first as opposed to a direct aid program. So those people who are, if I'm a family that's been impacted by COVID, the application for that is not going to come to the city. It's going to go to a vendor who will run that program, whatever it is, and the same for nonprofits and businesses. That's how we're thinking about it. So the proposals that we're looking at most closely right now is what are the proposals of how we would get money to where it's needed and would be most effective and get us the most resiliency and a rebound effect. So I just want, for the public who might be watching, is that we're not any day in the near future going to open up a portal where you apply to the city for $2,000 for your family or $10,000 for your business. I just want to set expectations on that. So we're focusing on programs to distribute money as opposed to the exact distribution. So with that, I think I'll throw it over to someone who can talk about Thought Exchange, and then we'll open it up for any questions.
Can you unmute?
So before we start on Thought Exchange, I just wanted to touch on something you said, Council President, because I think some of us have already been approached by some of these potential vendors, and I think there might be some early lobbying happening, and I just want to follow your guidance. So when that happens, who should we direct them to? I love having coffee with people, but I'm not sure that's appropriate in this case.
Yeah, great question. And if there's other questions before Thought Exchange, feel free. Yeah, so Mackenzie Lloyd would be the person, and maybe Hannah Lee can pop in on what Mackenzie's email is.
Yeah, her email is just mlloyd@spokanecity.org.
But Mackenzie is the project manager for Council's ARPA, and she's managing all requests.
Yeah, her email address is in the city directory. Her last name is Lloyd, and it's just mlloyd@spokanecity.org. And she's also in the city council members and staff email as well. So when you send something to the full group, she gets that.
Yeah, and she'll just be gathering it. And And if people have questions, you can refer them to her.
Sounds good. Other council members? All right. I guess we're just ready to roll on that. We have our last item, and I'm going to see if our guest is here. Oh, you have more.
Thought exchange.
Thought exchange. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm sorry I don't have slides to show you guys. I'm happy to send them to you, though. But we've had almost 700 people participate and almost 1,500 thoughts and over 20,000 ratings on thoughts so far. So it's going really well. If council members can continue to share that on their social medias or in their newsletters, that would be really great. We're still a little behind in District 1. So I did mention that at the CA meeting so that we could try to get the neighborhood councils to share that out. But for council members Burke and Cathcart, if you guys have ideas on how we can get that out to your district, please get in touch with Lisa and I, and we'd be happy to try and figure out some strategies on how we can get more participation. So.
Wonderful. Anything else on ARP? I think we've received the money. Is that correct? Tanya might have. She's still there. We do have the first payment has come in, right, Tanya?
Yes, we have received the first tranche. The second tranche will be May of 2022.
Great. Thank you. Are we ready to go to the council discussion on in-person meetings? Council President, do you want to lead that?
Yes. I guess I'm wondering if Dr. Velasquez is here yet, because we need him to inform us. Hannah Lee, can you
He
try
has
to get him?
He has another meeting until noon, so he'll be, I guess we can start our conversation about what council members want to see for our in-person meetings, and then he can join us to talk more broadly if you'd like. I did send around his answers to those questions as well right before study session.
All right.
So.
I don't know if we're going to wait for noon for him, but can people give me a show of hands if they've sent, on the one.
We can hear you.
I know I was echoing in my world, but I don't know. Anyway, if you could, if you haven't, check your email really quick, because he sent some responses to my questions that would be very helpful if you are going to just enter in discussion about what the rules should be for in-person meetings. So, or you can just tell me that, hey, I already looked at them, but okay, Councilman Kinnear, it'll just take like 2 minutes to look at it, if you take a look at it.
I just read them,
Okay.
and they're good. I guess my question is, we talked about there are only so many seats up on the dais, and he's talking about if you're vaccinated, you don't need to socially distance. I'm a little nervous about that because we sit quite close together. Councilmember Burke is going no, and I'm a little nervous about that piece. So I wonder if we could have a discussion about that, because his message says one thing, my gut tells me something else. So I'd love to talk about that with everybody here.
Oh, and Hannah Lee can share on the screen his answers, so that's awesome. So one response just to that, Councilmember Kinnear, is that I'm imagining that when we go, I'm mostly talking in person about audience members. I'm imagining that multiple council people are not going to be on the dais, and we now have the technology to do that. So TV5 has now the technology that we can appear by WebEx easily, and people be on the dais, both at the same time. And so I'm imagining, like for myself, because I'm going through some treatment, that I am not going to be on the dais for a while. I'm going to be immunocompromised for a few months. And I know I've heard from other council members that they're not coming on the dais, but they'll be fully participating on the screen in video. So we may be able to do pretty serious distancing. And certainly no council member should be attending that doesn't feel comfortable, because we will we have that covered now, which we didn't until a week ago. A week ago, we could not do that, but now we can do that for the council members.
So I want to make sure that, how can I say this? Everybody feels comfortable with their own decision and there are no repercussions, shaming, whatever, if people decide, no, I'm not going to go in person. And we trust people to know themselves and how, what would happen or how they would respond to being ill or their own comfort level. So
Yeah.
I'm just asking the group, so can we agree that if you decide not to come in, it's not going to be, you know, oh, so-and-so's not coming in because they're, you know, make something up, I don't know. So do we have a consensus on that of accepting people's own personal decision?
Councilmember Cathcart.
Yeah, you know, obviously the city policy is no bullying, and that should be our policy as well. And we should accept how, you know, how people want to treat themselves. I just think instead of requiring everybody, vaccinated or not, to wear a mask, maybe a better option would be to spend some of our ARP dollars, purchase some N95 masks, and have those available for people who feel uncomfortable or, you know, want to actually protect themselves in a safer way. And I think that would be a much better way. And then we can still lead by example and show that if you're vaccinated, you don't have to comply with a lot of these rules.
Annalee, can you put up Dr. Velasquez's?
While she's doing that.
I'm sorry, Council Pro Tem, I'm sorry.
That's okay. You're very helpful. We do have Councilmember Burke that wants to speak, but I will say we did look at the dais because we're coming to you from council chambers, and we actually could fit 5 with a 6-foot distance. 4 would be a margin of error. So we could have 4, possibly 5 on the dais. There was some discussion. Usually our city council attorney is up here with us, but that doesn't require him to do that. He could certainly be in the audience if he chose to attend, which would make room for, you know, potentially a 5th council member up here. So, you know, as we go along, you know, there is room, and we're able to do it with the microphones. That was the other barrier, was the audio. So we're hearing now we don't have that barrier. Councilmember Burke.
Thank you. My internet is still really spotty, so sorry if I cut in or out. But I just wanted to say, we probably like to go back into quarantine. I just don't think it's really helpful for us to think that this is over. It's not over. We have the variant Delta's here. It's going to take over. And it's not responsible for us to be not wearing masks inside. People are still dying and getting sick, and our rates going exponentially up like it did in the wintertime. So if you just look at the data, we need to lead by example, and we need to make sure that we're actually doing what is right. So I'm just like not interested in having in-person meetings and doing all this stuff like it's gone away. Like, people are still sick, and our numbers are going way up. Yesterday we had numbers as high as we've had in January. We're not getting serious about this. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I'm not doing any in-person meetings anymore, and I'm going to start quarantining again because it's not safe to be out.
Council President, I think we got most of that. Councilmember Burke, there was a little bit of an audio interruption, but does everyone feel like they got most of the information from her? Okay, Council President.
Yeah, so I just wanted to point out, because I asked this question about should we all be masked if we opened up in-person meetings, according to public health guidance. That's just my question to Dr. Velasquez. My own personal view is we should always follow the existing current public health guidance.
Henley, can you go to the next slide?
Understanding that it's a new disease and the guidance has changed, both in terms of the understanding of the, could you go back to the top of
sorry.
that, Annalee? we know that our understanding has changed, and then the conditions on the ground have changed. So when I asked the question to Dr. Velasquez about should everyone be masked, particularly what I was concerned with in the audience, his answer is the guidance is yes. We don't need to do social distancing in the audience, which that is a big change and very helpful because we had no way to do the social distancing. If more than about 30 people showed up, then we would have to cancel the meeting. And so my understanding of his guidance is don't have to do social distancing, don't have to check vaccine cards, but everybody does need to be masked in the audience at least. And my own view is if we're up on the dais and there's only a few of us there and totally socially distanced, that I'm not sure about that. But so I guess I heard from Councilmember Cathcart and totally understood his view that you want to show people that there's a benefit to getting vaccines because you don't have to wear some masks outside and other places. But again, the main benefit of the vaccine is that you are less likely to get it by far. And if by chance, if you're in that very few percent that does, you're super unlikely to be hospitalized or die. That's the main benefit of the vaccine. But I wanted to invite any other council members because the process is Council Pro Tem Lum and I need to write the rules potentially for the 16th, what would be there. And I'm hoping that we get that done sooner rather than later so that if we do go in person on the 16th, which we'll come back to that question in a minute, we can tell people well ahead of time so they know what to expect, so they don't show up at the meeting with different expectations. So I guess I want to hear from as many people as possible of what they think about requiring masks of audience members if we open up the Chase Gallery and council chambers to an in-person meeting with a hybrid participation option.
I can't see everybody. Let's just see.
Councilmember Kinnear.
Yeah, Councilmember Kinnear. I couldn't see everybody. Sorry about that. Councilmember Kinnear.
Thanks. Council President, I tend to agree with you. Masks are not to protect the individual, they're to protect other people. And if you are vaccinated, you can still transmit the virus according to the science that I've been reading. I would not be comfortable going into chambers with an audience that is not masked because some people are just not going to follow the rules. I know you can still get sick. I know that too. I know the N95 is a better option, but it's not a perfect option. And I think if we do go back, we need to wear masks. That would make me feel more comfortable.
And I was just going to weigh in that we should provide masks. Any place that requires masks always provides masks too. So I agree that, and I like the idea of N95s. Great.
Other council members? Yes, Councilmember Wilkerson.
Thank you. I support the mask starting out, as this will be something new for all of us. We're all evolving through this process and the great unknown. So I think it is a small gesture to wear the mask for us to be able to hold council meetings in a hybrid manner because people are wanting to come down and speak to us. So that would be a compromise I'd be okay with. So we can have that face-to-face engagement, which our community members have been asking for. So I support the mask at this time, always looking as the guidance change, that we be open to change as the guidance changes.
Councilmember Stratton.
So I'm good with the masks. I think we need to be as safe as we can. The only thing that I'm concerned about is that the numbers are going up. It'll be interesting to see the next week or so where those are going. But I'm comfortable with the mask and with people wearing masks coming in. The only thing I worry about is we should have a plan in place for somebody that shows up and refuses to wear a mask or follow any precautions. We should have some kind of a, proper procedure in place to deal with that.
I also want to mention that early discussions were that the masking requirement would also be in the Chase Gallery. So not just here, because people congregate there outside of our city hall in close quarters. So would this apply also to Chase?
I think it should.
So that being said, it might...
And they come in and out.
Yes. Yeah. So that being said, we'd need to talk about how that would set up, because there's 2 entrances into Chase. So we would need to work that through, and also posting the rules. Councilmember Cathcart.
Yeah, just a question. So I know the city policy right now is if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. So would this be a time domain that city employees walking through the Chase Gallery would have to be masked up, or kind of how would that work with regard to the city hall policy?
I think that's a great question. I think what I'm imagining, these are council rules, so it would be around study sessions, committee meetings, and city council meetings, and then we would have to say something like, I don't know what it is, half hour before, half hour after, hour, But that's a really good point I hadn't thought of. So, and frankly, I'm hoping, it's ironic to me, the CDC opened up, we could have had people without masks in City Hall quite a bit ago under guidance, and now the guidance has changed and we're sort of doing the old guidance. So I'm hoping, I'm going to forward Dr. Velasquez's guidance to the administration, and I'm hoping that they will conform with our public health guidance so that there won't be that disconnect, because I agree that's going to be frustrating for employees of like, oh, it's a council thing, I got to do one thing, it's not a council thing. So I'm going to seek alignment. We obviously aren't in charge of the building other than during our meetings and in our areas, but I'm hoping that we'll get an alignment, and given the numbers of the last 2 days, I'm hopeful we'll be able to create that.
So another piece of this is when we do have the public here and they're here to speak in the public forum, will we allow them to take their mask off when they speak and to get details about what is the best health guidance for, cleaning off the podium, the microphone, that sort of thing, if we have them take off the mask. So that's where we have to get down to the details on the rules. And my other comment is there are a lot of small things that can impact whether or not we can open. And my sense right now is to finish that in 10 days or less working days by the 16th is a little optimistic, plus getting the rules out to the public. And we need to work with the administration as well. So I'm personally fine with having folks here if they're masked. And I think that we need to follow the guidance, but I don't think we can maybe get it done by the 16th. I'm thinking maybe after the Labor Day holiday might be a little more doable, and we might have a little more information as to the stability or instability of the spread of the variant and that sort of thing by then. But that's the conservative side of it.
Yeah.
Council President.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, if the last 2 days hadn't happened, I was really thinking, like, let's shoot for the 16th. We've got next week off. Our numbers aren't too bad. But the last 2 days have really kind of shaken me in terms of public health. And the last thing I want to do is be part of spreading this disease to people. And so I'm in your same corner on that. I'm thinking the week after Labor Day, assuming things get better. But I would love to, again, like every other issue, I would love to hear from the rest of council members of what they're thinking.
Go ahead, Councilmember Wilkerson.
Well, speaking of administration, I'm sure our facilities person that's out there floating around somewhere on the screen. That would just be my challenge as to how soon the administration could actually staff up to provide the support services that you mentioned, Councilmember Mumm, as to the cleaning of the area, when people come up to speak, other sanitary issues that have to be addressed. So the devil will be in the details. So how soon can the administration make that happen? If they can make it happen by the 16th, I would certainly lean into that. Otherwise, I'll be perfectly fine with after the Labor Day weekend.
Anyone else? Councilmember Stratton.
I just, looking at the numbers today, I was shocked. So maybe we're better to kind of give that some time to see where those numbers go and wait until after Labor Day to see if they're coming down or not. Because I was a little scared when I saw those numbers.
Councilmember Kinnear.
I agree with Councilmember Stratton. Kate, there are not enough people vaccinated. That is correct, especially in West and Eastern Washington. So I would like to wait till after Labor Day too. Thanks.
Maybe we should have open council meetings and provide vaccinations in the Chase Gallery. Just another opportunity to get vaccinated.
Why not? I like that. Masks and vaccinations.
As a requirement.
All right. I think we have come to some kind of consensus here, Council President. Is there anything else you want on this?
No, that's the feedback I'm looking for. Is the majority of people want to do it after Labor Day. We will spend that time coming up with some draft rules and coordinating with the administration to make sure that we have security down there, which we usually have. But we also need 2 tables instead of 1. We need N95 masks, which we can order, and get our processes figured out. So it's disappointing, I know, for a lot of people. They really feel more comfortable testifying in person and participating in person. And I really want to restore that, but I really do not want to be part of making someone sick or dying. So we'll go on that track. This is so helpful for us in the administration of our department. And I think that's all. We might, I don't know if Dr. Velasquez is going to join us now.
He is here.
12.
He is with us. And Dr. Velasquez, we can welcome him and let him know that we're looking to seek his guidance for potentially opening up after Labor Day. Dr. Velasquez, welcome.
So good afternoon. I apologize. I'm trying to get my video going, but it's causing me trouble. Apparently we had an update and that may have caused some issues. So let me see if I can change that. Actually, give me about 10 seconds to see if I can get some help. Hold on for a second, please.
And Candace, when he comes back, I'll tee him up and explain to him that we don't need the first question answered, but the second question. And I'm just going to ask him to talk to us a little bit about these numbers and what's going on, what's his assessment, just so we have the latest.
I will also mention what we do, and these guidelines might be very helpful for the boards and commissions who are in the same position that we are. So when we're putting this together, think that also through, that we're making potential decisions not just for our council, but for all our advisory boards and commissions as well.
Annalee, I'm wondering if you could, while he's doing that, if you could throw up that second question that he answered so the public can read it.
says read only.
It was the last minute.
So I apologize, but it seems my camera is still not working. So I just wanted to at least do audio. So out of respect for your time, so I apologize
Great.
for that. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Dr. Velasquez, this is Brian. Thank you so much. We actually got through so much of our other business early that we answered a couple of questions that we had first, which was it sounds like the majority of people want to require masking for in-person meetings. We will have a hybrid option for people to do that. But we were thinking about starting on the 16th, but given recent numbers and things, we're not going to start prior to after Labor Day. So that question is answered. But what I was hoping you would do today is give us a little bit of a status update, since we don't get to talk to you that often and you're right on the ground and we only are reading it in the newspaper. And then secondly, if you could address my second question about what L&I requires of employees in terms of those attestations, because I don't think the city is doing that yet. So that's kind of my agenda for you, to the degree we have you, and then other council members may have questions for you. And Council Pro Tem Mum will be the managing questions and things like that. So thank you so much.
Are you okay, Dr. Velasquez there? We heard some noise. Are you with us still?
I am here. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Apologize for technical issues. So let me then give you a little bit of a perspective of where we are in general in Spokane County. And as you can tell from the statistics that we publish pretty much every day, our case rates have been increasing steadily over the last 2.5, 3 weeks. And I want to make a caveat, and the caveat is on Monday, you may have seen the number 451. That represented a system backlog with the Department of Health. So we had a number of cases that were reported on that day that were not necessarily from that day, but were from the previous days. But what that tells us is that the increasing trends continue. So we have seen that. Second, we also have seen some increases in hospitalization rates as well as ICU utilization. As an example, on Monday, we had about 110 patients hospitalized, COVID-related illness in Spokane County, and about 37 in the intensive care units. And those are the highest numbers that we have seen since about February of this year. So just to give you some perspective. We are about 57% on 16 and older initiating immunization, about 55% on 12 and older. And the reason why I bring that up is because we have seen the number of cases increase dramatically in the unvaccinated population. So for example, if we look at the state of Washington, and Spokane is very similar, about 98% of cases that are hospitalized with COVID-related illness are in unvaccinated individuals. We have a breakthrough rate that is less than 0.008%, which is very, very low. And the occasional breakthrough cases that we see are actually less symptomatic, typically do not require hospitalization, and we have only seen mortality in one breakthrough case out of the number that we have, and it was individual with a number of comorbidities. It was a very high-risk individual because of previous clinical conditions. So right now, one of the things that we're tracking is, as you've heard, the Delta variant. We started using the Greek alphabet on mid-June, according to the World Health Organization. And the Delta variant, just to give you a little bit of background, is the variant that was identified initially in the state of Maharashtra in India back in October of 2020, and caused a significant surge in India. At that point, though, that nation had an immunization rate of about 3%. So it spread very quickly because this is a variant that spreads very quickly in unvaccinated populations, which is what we've seen in many parts of the country and the world. So from India moved to UK, Scotland, Ireland, and then through Europe. It was the cause of the surge that we saw, the significant surge that we saw in the UK earlier this year. And one of the reasons why I bring that up is because it moved to the US in March. And as of last week, is about 85 to 88% of all sequence cases in the US, and is a similar number in the state of Washington. And that has happened in a matter of weeks, not a matter of months. And this particular variant moves very quickly. And the reason for that, and the reason why we're so focused on it, although after that I'm going to talk about a couple of other variants that we need to think about, is this particular variant has some characteristics that are important to know. First of all, it is a lot more effective at transmission than any of the variants that we have seen before. To give you some context, the Alpha variant, the variant that was identified in the UK earlier this year, is about 50% more transmissible than the original strain of the virus. The Delta variant is about 60% more transmissible than the Alpha. And some of the literature has put this variant at about 225% more effective at transmitting from person to person than any other variants that we have seen. And there's a couple of reasons for that. So, and just give you some perspective, what I mean by more effective at transmission, the original strains of the virus will transmit from person to person between one individual to up to 2 to 2.5 individuals or other people in their surroundings, which is higher than the flu. The flu has a 1-to-1 transmission rate. This one has 1 to 3 to 4. So it does spread a lot more quickly. And one of the reasons for that is this variant also generates a much higher concentration of virus than any other variant we've seen, and is about 1,000 times higher concentration of virus in the respiratory tract of infected individuals than any other variant. So that, in addition to the various mutations that allow the variant to escape the immune surveillance early on, is the reason why it makes it more transmissible. I want to make one more point on the Delta variant, then we'll talk about a couple of other things that I think are important. The Department of Public Health of England went back and did some analysis on previously obtained specimens from the search they had in May and June, which is when Delta was moving very quickly through the country. And one of the most significant findings was that the seroprevalence in those specimens of the Delta variant in children that are 5 to 12 and 18 to and young adults 18 to 24 was 5 times higher than the seroprevalence in those that are 65 and over, most of whom are immunized. So what does that tell? That goes along with the concern about it spreading in under vaccinated or unvaccinated populations. And what I mean by under is individuals that did have one first shot of one of the 2 shot vaccines, but didn't get the second. For full protection in this second, both doses of the vaccine. And we do know, according to many studies, there's one that was published in Singapore, just came out yesterday, I think, where these vaccines are very effective in preventing transmission, not only of the variants, but including the Delta variant, which I think is very important to remember. So that's one of the reasons why we are tracking this very carefully. I think we have of all the cases in Spokane. I'm going to pull that number up because I just looked at it not that long ago, so I can give you the specific number. Here we go. So we have in Spokane specifically 49 identified sequence cases of the Delta variant. That's not a lot, but the reason why I mention the number is because those are the specimens that have been sequenced by the Department of Health, and the Department of Health is sequencing about 23% of cases, so that doesn't tell us really how much of the variant is in the community. We do know based on its infectiousness and effectiveness that we probably have a lot more cases than we know. And one of the reasons why I bring that up is because we also know that this variant may cause symptoms that can be very easily confused with a common cold. In the previous versions of the virus did have the typical fever and trouble breathing and the cough, and so a very strong respiratory disease, upper respiratory tract disease. But this particular variant has been known to present with a runny nose, a sore throat, and a headache, which most of us would not associate that with COVID. We would probably associate that with a common cold. So we've made sure that all of our providers are aware of that, and anybody presents with those symptoms, don't assume that is the common cold. Let's get people tested. So I wanted to share some of those things with you just to make sure that you have some of the information that we're tracking. And then lastly, we do know that somebody said get tested. Absolutely. Anyone that is symptomatic or has been exposed needs to get tested. But I wanted to share with you the fact that we continue to track other variants. If you listen to some of the news today, we're really starting to follow some of the other variants like Epsilon and Lambda. Lambda comes from Peru. It's also called C37. And there's a new variant identified in Florida, specifically out of Miami, probably around the Miami International Airport, which doesn't have a letter yet, but it's 1621, which is being traced back to Colombia. And the point that I'm making there is there is a lot of travel. These variants move person to person, so all you need is one person to cause infection. That's why the last statement I'm going to make is that we need to continue following public health guidance and basic things that we can all do, like wash your hands, respiratory etiquette, wear masks where appropriate and necessary, get tested if you're symptomatic or have been exposed. And if you do qualify and have access to, with the guidance of your provider, can get vaccinated, please do so. So I want to make sure that we keep talking about those things because basic stuff like my grandmother taught me, like wash your hands, is still extremely important. All of the things that we can all do. I can tell you, and I've been very consistent since June the 30th when we started to move forward. I stated that I made a personal decision. This is my decision, and I encourage others to think about it. Since I do have people around me that are not eligible for vaccines because of age, I've chosen to continue wearing a mask in some places where I'm not sure who's around me. And I'm doing that just not necessarily so much for my protection, although it would protect me, the individual, but I'm doing it because it protects others around me. And more importantly, it's one of those things that I can do to make sure that we as a community can keep moving forward. Because, you know, we can go back to restaurants, we can do a lot of things. I want to keep that moving. I want to keep us moving in that direction. And the end point is variants or regular strain of the virus transmit exactly the same way, person to person. So we all can do a little bit to prevent that. So I'm going to stop here and see if you have any questions for me. And I know I went fast, but sometimes I forget that I'm not a professor anymore and I'm not lecturing, so I get on my lecturing mode, so I apologize for that. 25 years of teaching medical schools doesn't go away very quickly. So.
Councilmember Kinnear.
Thank you for the update. I did feel like I was in biology class, but it was very nostalgic, so thanks for that as well. My question is, we have a Delta variant. Is there indication in other countries or in this country if another variant is emerging in addition to the Delta variant?
Very good question. We have actually to give you even a little bit more context, we have identified worldwide about 4,000 different variants. But of those, there's 15 that are being tracked worldwide because they are the ones that are more biologically active. And what I mean by that is these are the variants that have mutations that make them more transmissible or more infectious or can cause more disease. And right now, around the world and in the US, we're tracking Alpha variant, which is a 117 origin from the UK, the Beta variant, which is 1351 from South Africa, Gamma from Brazil, P1, and the Delta, which I just talked about. But we also have started to track an increase in the Lambda variant, which I mentioned we identified in some parts of Texas, and coming from Peru, originally identified in Peru, and the one without a letter yet, which is 1621, identified in Colombia. So a number that we're tracking, and I can send you the breakdown of what we have in the state as compared to the U.S. I have a couple slides that I can send you that have all of that information. And I think the point behind this is viruses mutate. This virus tends to mutate at least twice a month. Given the frequency of mutations that we have identified almost 14,000 different mutations. Of those, there's a handful that are more worrisome than others. And what I mean by that is they increase the efficiency of the virus of being an infectious agent by either helping the virus attach more effectively to the receptors in the human cells or hide somewhat from the antibodies, which is what some of these more worrisome variants tend to do. So they evade the immune surveillance because we are constantly exposed to infectious agents every day of our lives, but our immune system, through surveillance, active surveillance, makes sure that they don't go too far. The moment that a cell gets infected, that cell is destroyed, but some of these variants are very smart at hiding, and Delta, as I mentioned, not only is doing that, but it overwhelms by having so much virus replicating inside the human cells. So we will continue tracking that. If I had to look at the future, and I don't have a crystal ball, but one of the things that we've seen in England, Scotland, and a variety of other places is that the Delta variant has moved really fast, but it also has tapered faster than the others, meaning the surge hasn't lasted as long as some of the other ones. So we're tracking that to see if indeed that is what we see in the U.S. Don't know. We're in the middle of the search right now across the country. But if that is the case, then you can start to predict that in the next 4 8 weeks we may see those numbers go down. But there's still other variants that we're tracking, and that is important because we continue our work with schools. We went from academic year to summer camps to restart schools in the fall. So we continue meeting with all of our superintendents every week to talk about what do we need to do for our students as they come back, students, faculty, and staff. And we continue tracking that. Thus far, as you know, the CDC has made a recommendation for even vaccinated individuals to do masking. Like I said, I've made that recommendation since June the 30th as a personal decision that we all need to think about based on our situation. Not all of us have the same situation, but to add to that, I would like to say, not only if you have people around you that are not eligible for vaccines, but if you have individuals in your family that have immune disorders, are fighting severe diseases like cancer, are elderly, or even if you yourself happen to fit one of those categories, I think wearing a mask is a good idea and something that I'm strongly encouraging everybody to think about. Not that any of us, frankly, wants to be wearing masks. We wear them when we have to, but it does work very well. And if you look at all of the literature on the effectiveness of masks, of course, we know that the N95s and K95s are much better, but the masks that are available to the general public, and you can't see me, but I have this 3-ply mask on my sister-in-law. She made me about 30 of them in various colors, and they match my pocket squares because I like to wear pocket squares. So since I have to wear it, I've turned that into something that just goes with me. And, I go like, yeah, I just put a mask. So every day, when I'm figuring out when I'm going to work the next day, I pull out one of the masks that matches and I put it on. So I think there's a lot we can all do. And yes, sir, I see a question.
Councilmember Cathey.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Dr. Velasquez. What I want, two questions for you. One is, do you happen to know, kind of in Spokane County, is there enough vaccine that's just available, through pharmacies and various locations for, most anybody who wants it to be able to have access to it if they choose to do so? And then second, do you know of those who are vaccinated, I guess what percentage are, of advanced age or immunocompromised, basically reducing the risk of, hospitalization or death in the community?
That's a very good question. And first question, in terms of availability of the vaccine is extremely widely available right now. Drugstores, supermarkets, retail environment. Our healthcare providers have actually moved vaccines to the kind of like the primary care frontline. And also that's true for adults as well as are you there?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I kind of lost totally visual here. I'm not sure why. Oh, there you are. So they're widely available. They're very easy, accessible. I think at one point people were a little bit concerned because of some manufacturing issues. J&J Janssen vaccine was not as widely available, but there's significant amounts of both Pfizer, Moderna, and also J&J in a variety of places across the community. Supermarkets and pharmacies are great places because they're part of the flow of what we do. And I'm not going to mention any particular chains because I don't want to advertise, but we all go to, we go to a grocery store, we stop at the drugstore to get this or that, and great place to get a vaccine, very readily available. If you call your primary care provider, the first thing that you're going to hear in the automated response is, we have vaccines available, make an appointment. So pretty much everywhere. That's number one. Number two, the percentage of immunized people over the age of 65 is extremely high. It's between 70 and 80%, depending on how you count it. So we've done a really good job. And that, if you trace that back to the number of hospitalizations in that age group, 65 and over, were the bulk of the hospitalizations way back at the beginning of this pandemic. Right now, they're extremely low percentage. The largest percentage of disease burden is between 20 and 49. They represent the largest groups with the most new cases. And if you look at hospitalizations, those that are between about 45 to about 60, particularly the 50-something, are the bulk of the hospitalizations. And unfortunately, 98% of those that are showing up are not immunized. Now, we have seen, for example, some breakthrough cases in high-risk areas like long-term care facilities. And the percentage of immunized patients and staff at long-term care facilities is also extremely high. And that's one of the reasons why I think if you look at hospitalization, ICU stay, mortality in those groups has gone down to very low single digits when it used to be extremely high double digits a month ago. So that tells us that vaccines do work and do work for those that are because of age. We also know that there's a large number of individuals with not only various diseases that put them at risk that are immunized, but we also know that there's a significant number of pregnant women who are also immunized. And since it's International Breastfeeding Week, I just want to throw in that we do have, and I have the data about not only effectiveness, but safety in pregnancy. It's quite impressive thus far. Now we need more time to study, many more thousands of people and many months of study. That's typically what we do, but at least the data that we have that was published was recently in New England Journal of Medicine. I think it was June the 15th. Don't quote me on the date, but I think it was that. It's really, really good. It's over 800 pregnancies to term with people that had the full immunization, and the number of negative outcomes were either mother or or neonate or fetus were basically the same as in the average population without COVID, which basically means the vaccine did not really impact the outcomes, and there were no neonatal deaths on that particular study, which is really good. We also know that the antibodies generated by the mother do transfer in breast milk and through the umbilical cord. So there is protection being conferred to the fetus in utero, and there's protection being conferred to the infant by breastfeeding. We do have that data has been already published from a variety of places, and we're tracking that. So I think those are good news, because at one point we were concerned about the effectiveness and the protection, particularly for the infant. I can tell you that I know personally many people that were pregnant, became pregnant. There's also many that became pregnant during the clinical trials. And the good news is we've seen those go to term, and both mom and infant are doing well. So, we're always happy when we see that.
That is great news. Well, Dr. Velasquez, I think we've come to the end of our time. Are there any other questions by council? Councilmember Wilkerson.
I don't have a question. I just have a comment. I just want to give a shout out to all the workers who don't have the option to stay home during this virus, who is out there, our city employees, our grocery store workers, our healthcare workers, and I just had to acknowledge we are sitting in a place of privilege, that we're sitting here for an hour discussing if we're going to show up or if we're not going to show up. And I support my council on this, but I just want to recognize everybody does not have the options that we do at this time. And I will support Dr. Velasquez. Please wear your mask and do all those issues. But thank you for all the other people who are out there every day going to work so we can still be able to thrive.
Thank you. Council President.
Super quick, Dr. Velasquez, in 2 minutes, I'm just hoping you can confirm verbally what you told us in writing, that LNI requires all our employees at the city to sign attestations as to whether if they're vaccinated, and if not, then we have to take some precautions.
That is correct.
For people who aren't. Okay.
Yeah, the verification requires an attestation, and with the attestation, if that is either not signed or the answer is no or declined to answer, then the individual must wear a mask, and employers do have the right to request mask wearing in the place of employment 100% if that is the direction. And I can tell you many employers have gone back to requiring the employees to wear a mask. As I go around, I see lots of places with employees, and by the way, many of the customers also wearing masks. So I think it's an important thing to do. And thanks, Council Member Wilkerson, for that statement. I do thank all of those that do all of these things and come to work every day. Actually, we're just talking to our firefighters who are deploying to Southern Oregon, and we're sending rapid testing with them to keep them safe.
Thank you so much for taking time with us today. We really appreciate it.
It was my pleasure. I appreciate the invitation. I'm always happy to participate. Thank you for your support, and I apologize for the technical issues. We'll try to figure that out before the next one.
We all have them. Thank you. And Council President.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody. Good to see you all.
So,
Bye-bye.
Thank you. So, Council, before we sign off, I might propose that Council President and Hanley Allers work on some draft guidelines for a potential opening, whenever that might be, and we bring them back to you either at the study session on September 2nd or September 9th. Seeing head nods on that. All right. That takes care of our business for today. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Great discussion, great new news coming out of the health department. At least gives us more information to help us make a decision. So that is all for this week. We are off next week for a break, and we'll be back with our regularly scheduled council committee meetings. I think they begin at 10 a.m. Is that correct? Yep. 10 a.m. And we will have our regular council meeting at 6 p.m. that night on August 16th. Thank you, everyone.